With the 2022 February 10th NBA trade deadline quickly approaching, multiple league sources report that the Toronto Raptors are looking to operate as buyers. I want to explore the crucial reasons as to why this is the case, as well as discuss how this team can gear itself up for a playoff push in 2021-2022. Historically, teams who are looking to make a playoff run have naturally looked to bolster their lineup and/or shore up roster weaknesses by the trade deadline. For this year's Raptors, however, this will be no easy feat. Just look at what Nick Nurse had to say in a recent interview when asked about whether this team is looking to make moves at the NBA trade deadline. We're trying to evaluate who exactly we are. And if you're going to try to add a piece or two, which you're always trying to do, saying, what does this team need? Even in the championship year, you're trying to figure out where can we make it that much better, that much deeper, or whatever. It has been difficult this year to figure it out. Like many teams, Toronto has dealt with availability issues this year, due to COVID-19, as well as injuries. The team is currently in the play-in tournament picture, however, at 22-21, good for the 8th best record in the East currently, despite all its roster struggles. Now, a super quick message before we continue. It has come to my attention that currently only 8.7% of you watching are actually subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It really does make a world of difference, and smash that like button while you're at it, so this video can get to more Raptors and NBA fans such as yourselves. As I was saying, it's no secret that Toronto, as well as much of the league, has had to deal with player availability issues, due either to COVID protocol or injuries. Now, Nurse Stradamus actually called this before the season started. He literally said, the days of having 9 players and thinking you're good are over. And I was right. And Nurse Stradamus certainly was, especially given the fact that the Raptors have so many new faces on their roster. A larger sample size of games played with a healthy roster would most certainly have helped the Raptors front office in terms of painting a clearer picture as to what this team actually needs. Now, regardless of the not-so-clear circumstances, however, having Masai Ujiri and Webster as the final decision makers here should help Raptors Nation feel at ease about the deadline, with the team looking much more like the one that a lot of us envisioned them being this season. A no-quit, scrappy, and tough out on any given night for opponents this year, with playoff hopes, thanks to the fact that key players such as Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Khem Birch, and GTJ are finally healthy and able to continue developing that crucial chemistry with one another. The thing is, however, relying on just 7 players all season is not a viable long-term option, especially throughout the course of an 82-game NBA schedule. Now, here are the most obvious needs for the roster at the moment, and it seems to be that a lack of depth, a lack of good shooters, quality size at the 5, and secondary playmaking are what separates the Raptors from the best in the league. If the Raptors are able to address some or all of these issues without trading away future core pieces by the trade deadline, then this team may raise its ceiling from a play-in team to a threat to take the East. We must remember the Raptors have multiple former NBA champions on their squad, and that experience is way too valuable, especially when games count the most, which is why coaches and players with such accomplishments under their belt cannot be counted out. The major challenge holding the Raptors back from making a substantial splash at the trade deadline, and this is key, has been Goran Dragic's $19 million contract. With Dragic only having played a handful of games for the franchise this season, coupled with underwhelming performances in those few games that he did play, that doesn't quite make him the most attractive trade piece at the deadline, especially given that contract and his age. It is worth noting, however, that the small sample size in games is certainly not indicative of what the veteran guard is capable of. His scoring skill and experience is bound to come in handy for a playoff contender, and this Raptors Nation is what the Raptors front office management is banking on. If a playoff team that's desperate enough bites at the allure of adding Dragic and his breadth of experience to bolster their postseason hopes, then the Raptors may be able to prize some players or even picks off of teams like those to set themselves free of his contract weight, which is holding them down as an anchor at the moment to be able to have any kind of flexibility at this trade deadline. We also know that Chris Boucher's contract is about to expire. The good news with Chris Boucher is, despite a rocky start to the season, his recent string of performances have propelled his trade value enough to a point where the Raptors could attain some valuable pieces for the Montreal, Quebec native if they choose to leverage him as a trade asset at the deadline. There are sure to be teams looking for what Chris Boucher, who was a six-man candidate last year, could potentially bring to the table for them, especially if they're trying to make a deep playoff push. Now, if you guys want to check out some trade possibilities, I have made a segment which I will leave a link to at the end screen of this video. I discussed some possible players there that the Raptors could trade for at the deadline to shore up their roster weaknesses, and I included some scorers and centers in there as well. Now, in comparison to the rest of the league, there are some key team stats I want to point out that the Raptors need to improve on as a team, and bolstering the roster at certain positions with certain key kinds of players would most likely result in an improvement in these rankings. At the moment, the Raptors rank 27th in field goal percentage at 43.6%, 21st in three-point percentage at 34.1%, and 23rd in points per game in the league at 106.8 points per game. On the flip side, it does rank 3rd in fewest turnovers per game, 1st in offensive rebounding, and 3rd in steals. Now, if Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster come up with a way to balance out Toronto's offensive capabilities with its defensive strengths without touching the team's core, this team's ceiling would become, in the most positive of ways, a big question mark for this season. Because who truly knows what they could accomplish with more firepower, given what they already have so far with just a 7-man rotation? Fred VanVleet put it best when asked about this in a recent interview. He said, "This is what we got." He said, "There's no help on the way, we're in a fight, we're grinding it out, we got high character guys that work extremely hard, and we've got a great medical team, a great organization, and we're doing everything we can to play hard every night. I think we're getting great performances from the guys who are playing, and this is what we've got until we hear otherwise." I recently made a take on our rookie sensation Scottie Barnes and why certain advanced stats of him actually make him more valuable than other rookies in his class, including one key metric that gives him the edge over Evan Mobley. You do not want to miss that one, especially if you enjoyed this one. And remember, if you do watch it, you'll be feeding a hungry African. Seriously, I'm African, and I get hungry a lot. Got some munchies?